So I would definitely say that Bryan has picked a anti-meta leader,
For
in
sure.
the sense that when we think about a lot of cards like the South Surge deck,
Yeah.
that really focuses on getting cards into the drop and then warping them from the game to get value out of them. If they're not hanging out in the drop, you're not getting any value out of it.
For sure. And there's a huge advantage for knowing what your deck does and your opponent not doing that, right? There's a lot of value just playing something your opponent's not expecting. And looking at just Troy's first play, I would assume he's playing a more aggressive build of Shenron. It's still obviously hard to tell, but normally that negative energy ball kind of looks at that and look at the cards that he's already dropped too.
So Mechikabura leader, if you're not familiar with Restored to the Throne, this leader tries very, very hard to awaken about the second turn of the game. Going second is very feasible, but at the latest at the third turn of the game. But it's utilizing a lot of these ritual and hand cards, and looking at Bryan's list, he seems to really actually incorporate some of the Shroom and Salsa engine.
Yeah.
That we saw from, I believe, set 13.
Yeah, and I tried that leader very hard. It just didn't seem like it had enough gas, enough tools for it, but Meki can definitely do a lot of what that same leader is trying to do. So using his effect to look through the life and then deck for those Dark Dragon Balls. If you do not know what the Meki leader is, the Witch is a kind of an alternative game mechanic to Awakening that existed for a couple sets and then kind of fell to favor. But they've been releasing more support, and honestly, looking at some of the promotion cards that came out this year, there's just some direct wish support and desires, and I'm hoping that they bring back the archetype or make some more wish leaders, or even just alternative awakening conditions. I think they make the game really, really fresh.
Yeah, Bryan disclosing that he is a Star Wars fan by getting 2 copies of the Dark Emperor Strikes Back. Those cards being able to discard a card to draw 2 boost the consistency of this deck insignificantly. And when you're on a 56 card deck, you need all the consistency you can get.
Yeah, and yes, just having these these extra cards being free cycle though really makes it almost like he's under a 50 card list at the same time.
Correct. Unlike other cards that count as Dragon Ball or Dark Dragon Balls, you can only play 4 copies of the Dark Empire Strikes Back. So we'll probably see a few extra copies of Yearning for the Dark Dragon Balls, which is kind of your alternative card to fill in all 7 of those slots.
For sure. Oh, and he did swing, so he did take the combo. I think he took the balls from it, and then we didn't resolve that. So, but he's doing the pass and going over, leaving his energy untapped.
Swift Retaliation Cooler. Marcus Kantarski putting that card in the map back in 2019, in our heyday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when Bad Ring's gone, you gotta use something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Troy's down to 7 now, so it's 7 life to 8. But like once again, the life count on Bryan and Mechikabura in general, it's not strictly 4 isn't the magic number. It's just not going to 0 most of the time. It's really a different resource for Wish decks than it is regular decks.
We see a cut while Troy contemplating if he wants to utilize that critical on Electromancer.
Yeah, because he would have to take a life to get that plus 5k, right?
Correct.
Which is, I mean, if you're aggressive, you don't care either. As long as your life doesn't go to 0, you're feeling good.
Right, because this deck has three different mindsets when it comes to Awakening, right? Mindset 1 is you utilize some of your various Omega Shenron and Raid Shenron cards to take your life proactively. You have the route of playing a Unison card, like a Goku Black or Mechikabura, to awaken through the alternative option, or playing a slow game, letting yourself slowly take damage and try to allow yourself the last 6 turns.
Yeah, and so played the big 8-boy Shenron. This guy is insane. He has so much advantage and so much utility that really helps the deck be the force it is. The swings this leader looks top 5. We see a Hay Shenron. We see a negative energy ball. Taking the negative energy ball. I think with that, he may be able to awaken. No, he needs to go down to 3. But he can take 2 or 3 more life. And so how important is that drop area for Shenron?
In a lot of ways, it's essential. That Omega Shenron there, he needs to send cards from the drop area to the warp in order to get the most value out of their cards. So if Bryan is able to keep that drop area low, Troy is going to be on the back foot unconditionally.
Yeah, I agree as well. But it looks like he just used the effect to get the effect onto his Shenron as well, taking the life to do so. Swinging in, and the negate right there.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Darkness Judgment, effectively acting as a sensu bean.
Okay.
These two decks, very interestingly, they have a very similar card where Troy has access to Dragon Thunder, Bryan has access to Darkness Judgment, which is going to increase the power level of the leader, allow them to have a lot of resistance against a more aggressive strategy.
For sure.
Troy's going to have to make a decision here pretty quickly. Is he going to be the beatdown, or is he going to play the whole game?
Well, so here's the thing too, with Meki, since you are a Wish Leader, they can take you all the way down to 1 life, and you'd still be on the unawakened side unless you get the balls into the drop area. So I think it's a somewhat wise decision to say, oh, you know what, this is going to be a 10k leader for the rest of this turn, guaranteed. So let's do as much damage as we can, because this can take another life, this can get you awakened, and this can really start pumping damage.
And Allied Absorbed has the opportunity to gain critical through his ability.
Yeah.
We're seeing Electromancer here, again, trying to provide another crit damage. The faster Bryan can awaken, the more resistance he's going to have to these crits, the better he's going to be coming into this turn too.
Definitely. And that just makes it a hard need to awaken turn 2 with Meki as well.
Correct.
So it gets the awaken, a untap 1 and draw 2, since it's a 3 or less leader. Oh, look at those. That hand's dirty. Oh, double strike crit. We're the wrong commentators for that.
Yeah. Oh,
Bring him
goodness.
back.
Bryan here contemplating. Unfortunately, Mechikabura has to utilize the 7 Dragon Ball approach to be able to awaken on time.
Yeah, exactly.
So luckily he'll be able to fetch 2 more. That'll mean that by the end of the turn he'll have access to at least 5. But he's going to need to get some quality draws here to get to all 7 for turn 2.
Yeah, so this is a 30k double strike crit. And is he just a 10k leader, or did you say the negate
So
gives
the Darkness Judgment is going to bring him up to 15. But
Okay.
he's taking those 2 crits.
It's like a Toa and a Mass
And we
King.
saw the Dark Mass, I believe, the 6 drop. Dark Mass King Deluge. Or no, it was King Vegeta, a Kingdom Lost.
Yeah.
We have Troy with a shuffle up. Another thing Bryan's going to have to be aware of coming into this next turn, a lot of his battle cards are 3, 4, 5 costed. He has to be mindful of everything that Shenron can do.
And he just put exactly 6 in drop, so he does get the dual attack Bardock now. Going down to...
That's a quick first hit. And
Is he
probably
down to
an equally-
3 or 4 now? Can't actually tell. I think he's down to maybe just 2. Getting the restand because of the leader. And empty warp. Or empty drop, rather.
Yeah. And now the onus is on to Bryan. He needs to find a way to awaken, and he needs to find a way to clear this board.
If he can't awaken this turn, it is game 2 in my book. There's a power burst. I'm not sure if he just ripped that off the top. I would have definitely, if you could have power bursted that double strike crit, I think that would have been the move, especially since he would have stopped him from comboing, getting cards into the drop area to get the overwhelm. He could have either gotten it from the Bardock to damage.
Yeah. For those of you unfamiliar with these leaders, the way the Dragon Ball Super card game works is the majority of leaders have this when you're at 4 or less life awaken.
Yeah.
And then some leaders have balancing things that do more or less than that. The leader that Bryan has chose, one of his most vulnerabilities is he doesn't have the ability to do that. He has to get 7 Dark Dragon Balls into the drop.
For sure. And you just put 2 more in there, so there's, I think, at least 5.
I'm counting 5, correct.
Yeah. And so the trade-off on that, though, is that you get a lot of value. So these wish leaders are really good, like mid-game. If you're trying to finish on turn 2, 3, or 4, you get a really big explosion on that by flipping over, getting the advantage. You get a lot of card advantage too normally.
So we see Toa. Toa is going to be able to get the last 2 Dragon Balls. That does bring Meki back into this game.
Agreed.
He also has the Toa also has the benefit of removing a battle card.
Yeah.
By sending those balls to the drop. So getting that allies Omega Shenron off the board. Bryan's wiping some sweat off his brow from that one.
Yeah, because normally when you play that Sun Shenron, the choice is either you can go aggressive or you can give itself barrier and I believe blocker at the same time.
Correct.
Yeah, and so it's not very easy to get rid of, but now this Toa can make it just go away, which feels pretty good. That's a scary card for you. So.
Troy evaluating his hand, seeing if he has any options.
Yeah. So yeah, when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, send it to the owner's warp, and your opponent can choose one card in their hand, send it to the warp, and draws one.
Now, Ritual Hand Toa is going to serve as an additional block, provide plenty of defense, which is everything that Bryan needs right
Exactly. That the defense is good, but I will say that Shenron does have a lot of ways to mitigate that blocker too. It's very targetable for a lot of effects.
We saw that very pretty SPR power of a Super Saiyan. That is a great example of what you're saying.
And so, interesting. So, what do you think the chances are that there's a ball left in life? He said we looked through it earlier. He didn't get one when he first looked at it, but
so it sounds like that may not be the case, or he may not.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he has the combo away based on.
Okay.
How that makes a ton of sense to me.
Gotcha.
I'm sure not the preferred option here, but
no. And I mean, the scary thing too is that Bryan did take a lot of damage, but Troy's only at 3. He's tapped out. He doesn't have any blockers, so there could be a big swing for Bryan just to finish the game instead on turn 2 too.
So this leader ability, he's choosing to warp 7 Dragon Balls in order to draw 3. Now, there's 2 approaches that Bryan can take here. One is, I have at least 3 attacks left this turn. Maybe I can win the game this turn.
Yeah, exactly.
The other mindset could be, I just need cards. I need to draw my defensive options, and this is the turn to take advantage of that ultimate Dragon Ball ability.
For sure. So here is the leader there. So most of the wish leaders have an effect where you have kind of 2 standard effects and like an ultimate wish at the end. Meki is really unique where his third one doesn't flip him back over to the unawakened side, which most wish leaders do. And so he also has an auto when it attacks, you get to draw a card, and it's not once per turn. So since he chose the one to give his leader triple attack, that means he gets to draw 3, and he gets to keep it a 15k leader on the next turn. Put a lot of pressure. His opponent's down to 2 life with him now.
And looking at the list, there are some cards in this deck, SS4 Bardock fighting against Fate, Mirror Creator Absorb, that can absolutely take advantage of the Stow Life Score.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And like, once again, Bryan's drop area is free for that. Oh, and there is that big boy.
King Vegeta, Kingdom Lost.
We showed it earlier, but could use a refresher myself. He dropped an Oceanus out of hand. When this card's played, choose up to 1 card in your opponent's hand and up to 1 of their battle cards. Send it to the owner's warp. And once per turn, if this card is in rest mode, when your opponent attacks the leader card, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and send it to the warp. And then for 2, you can just play it for 3.
So we see Bryan going all in.
And it's double strike barrier too.
19, 29, 39, 49, 59, 69, 79,000. Troy is on the back foot.
Extra nice.
What is the response?
Game 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
How the turntables.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Like, once again, Sin can go off really hard, and one of the things about the deck is it normally would play the Cell Seeker rare, and he probably still plays it, but that can prevent you from having a big quad strike. Quad strike can just end the game. Like it can be a really big mitigator, and I think
I like how we saw Troy sitting on that final flash, just begging to resolve and get rid of that double strike. But
tapping out made it so like Bryan's like, okay, he's got nothing to do. I can try my best, go out, and I think it really worked out for him.
Yeah. And I think Troy made a great set of decisions, right? He understands that this anti-meta Mechikabura deck is keeping that drop area empty every turn of the game. So Troy needs to utilize the few resources that he can as quickly and as consistently as he can, and he found the path to do that. Yeah,
and I think you're exactly right. And he probably did overextend just a little bit, but I would also probably do the same thing because like, oh, he's unawakened. These crit damage does a lot for me. And depends on the deck. Maybe Meki's not a turn 2 kill deck. And like, I would know that. I've been looking into it, and it doesn't look like it can be that powerful at times.
Well, let's be fair too. This deck isn't intentionally, sometimes it's not even awakening on turn 2, let alone winning the game on turn 2. Troy made the decision that he needed to bring his life low to be able to threaten to be able to awaken when he gets to 3 life.
Yeah.
And Bryan said, well, given the circumstances, I'm going to do everything I can to push through that final damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Troy allowed it to go from 3 to 2 because that triple swing did it, and that may have been Troy's demise. He may not have had a choice in the matter.
Yeah, because it's when you're playing aggressive lists, it means that you don't have as much room for those defensive options. We did see the Final Flash, but I think Final Flash is more like a compromise, right? It can either be really aggressive by giving the plus 15k, remove maybe a blocker, are defensive at the same time, right? So that's why I think it's included, but it's also, it needs that one energy.
Yeah. So if I'm Bryan Samuel and I'm going through my side deck and I'm looking at cards like, let's see what we have here. What are my side deck options? I see Protector of the People. That's probably going to help.
Yeah, that's I would say, yeah, not being able to prevent negates is we saw that he didn't really get any negates out on the board, and I think going first he did overcome it, but is a huge detriment for a list that can't awaken on turn 4. And we've had these decks exist before where they have these really unique awaken conditions, but they don't have a fallback emergency awakening condition. And it can be, if you're not able to get there, it can be really detrimental.
But Bryan was able to circumvent that with great deck building decisions, and that's why he is in the lead, winning game 1, going into this game 2.
For sure. There's no coincidence that he's here right now.
Last year wasn't a perfect demonstration.
Yeah, whatever.
Just that nonchalant West Coast
it's
win.
2 years ago, actually. Right?
Colin Drake, he's trying to get that back to back. Back to back.
I mean, he's held it the longest.
That he has.
Yeah.
That he has.
Oh.
Shout out to Jordan Markle, the next person in line to keep up with that.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, there will be a third person to add to that.
Yeah, for sure.
To that mantle.
Oh, so already you're saying you don't want Bryan to win. You want a third person, right? We hear that?
Put words in my mouth.
Exactly.
Oh. Egg on my face.
All right. Looks like we are going good. I think Troy would want to go first.
You would think too, but I think Troy saw everything he wanted to those first 2 games, right? He has to be asking himself, did he make a bad decision by going, does he need to reconsider going second?
For sure. I mean, for Sin, like going first means you are a little bit lower on the card advantage. You don't get as many swings obviously you get 0 swings turn 1, right? But it also means your turn 2 is really strong, and chances are Bryan's not going to awaken turn 1,
right? And
turn 2 is still a bit of a gamble.
Yeah. You see that quick ball into to hand fold?
Yeah, exactly. It's the best play. You make it. All right, swinging in. Looking for the ball.
Bryan looking at his life, hoping that he doesn't have to take too much of it, because as he learned last game, he needs as much life in his deck as he can.
Yeah, and so that is the kind of trade too, and it depends on what deck you're playing against, but the balls can easily be in your life, and having those in there can be like, you have occasionally 1 and sometimes 2, and having to give your opponent 2 easy damage feels really bad.
Yeah, on the flip side, the hope is that if there is a Dragon Ball in the life, that whenever Electromancer swings with those crits, that yearning for the Dark Dragon Ball just happens to fall its way into that drop area.
Well, that's the gamble too, right? Because if you see like you've got 2 or 3, you're like, all right, I'll leave them in there so they get hit, and then like they still dodge the damage. You're like, oh, now I have to take even more life to even just awaken, which feels really bad.
Toe looking top 5, getting Salsa. Another Dark Demon God. I'm sure one of the primary reason that Bryan is playing these cards is because you need them to discard for the Dark Empire Strike.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But I'm also confident that he has some tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, so this Toa, when this card is played, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Up to 1 Evil Wizard, Demon Realm race are Demon God among them to your hand. For 1, if your leader card is black, you play up to 1 skillless Demon God from him with 15 power, and shuffle your deck. If you look through it, you can't activate main. So limit 1.
Correct. And he has some 5-cost shrooms and salsas that go on top of skillless battle cards.
Exactly.
So Toa being the consistency booster to offset that 56 card deck. I am sure Bryan wishes he could have kept this deck to 50, but from what we saw from last round, sometimes these games are going 5, 6, 7, 8 turns, and you may lose the game if you're playing 50 cards. You're going to see 52, 55, 57 card decks all weekend, and that is the main reason why.
Yeah, and I like that. I 50 is like the most consistent, right? But I do like having like 2 or 3, like, oh, here are my decks. I feel okay with them. And I would say based on a lot of other card games I've played, Dragon Balls is one of the like most
forgiving.
More forgiving and consistency. Like it rewards consistency. There's so much ways to search. There's so much cycling of cards compared to like your life is already just more cards you get in hand, and you get them when you're losing, not when necessarily you're winning.
And if you're playing a deck like Bryan's, you know what those cards are.
Exactly, yeah.
And you can build your game plan assuming that you get them at some point.
1000%.
That's some amazing math. You have to explain that one to me.
Yeah.
I've got 1,000. But
I agree with you 10 times.
So we see top 5 search off the leader, searching for any
Yeah.
Shadow Dragon.
And getting, once again, that big, scary 8-drop. Well, I mean, yes, there's a bunch of 8 drops that are scary, but specifically that one, Omega Shenron. Wow, it's absorbed. So this is the one that really makes it a toolbox stack. And it works aggressively, it works offensively, it works fantastic in this list.
It is probably the reason people were playing this deck this weekend. If you had to pick one singular reason, this card can become a Sin Shenron chain. It can become another Rage for Omega crit pressure, if you know what I'm saying.
For sure. I mean, just the idea of playing a 30k for 1 energy is just insane. That just stays on the board and then gets some additional effects.
Yeah.
But I think the other crazy thing is just the versatility. And like, well, you can add a bunch of 1-ofs into this list. And once again, your leader looks top 5. And you know how much I like looking top 5. Yeah. So.
Contemplating between, it looks like there's 2 different options. And he goes with another copy of Allies.
Yeah. But yeah, I think one of the interesting balance ideas for Dragon Ball is that it's a really thin edge sometimes, because, you know, originally I'd say Sin Shenron was more like a mid-range control list, and that 8-drop by itself has made it an aggressive list, like, right? That and the
in tandem with Rage
yes,
Shenron.
and Rage Shenron, yes. But just those 2 cards have made like, oh, look at how much value it can get for just 1 energy. Like, it's crazy.
Hayes Shenron hitting the board.
Yeah.
Likely going to see a revival here.
It is.
Naturon. One of the less common ones to hit the board, but certainly not the weakest.
Yes, definitely not. And the winner stamped, of course.
Anything less than the best is a felony.
So swinging in with the big boy. And she did make, I think he uses, Oceania. So it's just barrier. It doesn't have any effects. But there's Nueva, not Nueva, Nova Shenron. So unique, if your leader card is yellow Shenron and you have a yellow Shadow Dragon in play, you reduce the energy cost by 3, so it's a 1 cost. And once per turn, active main burst 2, switch card to rest, play up to 1 mono yellow Shadow Dragon from your drop here with any cost 2 or more, 19k power or less, and a character name that's not on the field already. So he was able to mill and then play the Natural, but he could have gone anything else in the
Correct.
too.
However, he's going to have limited options because Bryan's ability to manipulate that drop area.
Yes, exactly.
And the natural Shenron hits the board. He effectively has the skill of one time when Bryan plays a battle card, it's going to automatically come into rest mode. Shout outs to Crusher Ball, Giant Ball. We're seeing kind of a similar effect there. Bryan will have the onus of needing to find a way to remove that, or he will not be applying pressure on this next turn.
For sure. So Troy's decided to make a little bit of a slower game plan this game. He's down to 5 life. But he does have the Awakening if he needs to untap 1. And, you know, Naturon Shenron is definitely more of a control list, right? It is a big 15k double strike, right? But it does have if your leader card is yellow, when your opponent plays a battle card or instant card, you may choose that card and switch to rest mode, and then it's essentially once per turn.
Right, exactly. So something you have to ask if you're Troy. So you went, pedal to the metal, and you got them down to that, that 2 life, and it didn't work out. Troy's choosing to make to step back. We have to ask, is he making an optimal decision, or is he playing out of fear of game 2 looking identical to game 1?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that was I would be definitely a little afraid if I were Troy, because that was a lot of damage I was not expecting. Like, even as a commentator and watching this, I'm like, oh shoot, he's got the gas to go back, right?
Bryan contemplating, but within that book, he has quite a few options. We see him discard that vanilla. So he needs 2 copies of the vanilla for his shroom and salsa engines. And we see that drop getting thinner and thinner.
For sure. In the deck too. But yeah, Mechi's definitely given me a hope for new Wish leaders, and just like a second, thing for it. Because even like the Awaken condition for most of these Wish leaders, it was only just like usually like draw 1 card, and it wasn't like untapping on a Wish is absurd, and it never would happen. So. And just keeping your leader, awakened after you use your big wish too is really nice.
If I'm Bryan, I'm trying to figure out how do I get the most value out of my cards while making sure that Naturon Shenron gets the least value.
Yes, exactly.
That's what competitive card games is at the end of the day. How do I use the cards, the resources that I have? How do I get the most value out of them? And 2, how do I make sure my opponent gets the least value out of theirs?
For sure.
And when you're talking about a Dragon Ball Super National Champion, he knows how to do that.
Yes, exactly.
So Troy does the poke.
He does the Rest, please. Yeah, so that was played last game too. So once again, he gets to play for 1 if you have Mechikabura leader and 2 or more Dark Dragon Balls. It's a blocker, but doesn't matter as much since it is in rest mode. And then it does get the cycle and everything else. So it does get the Awaken for the untap 1. So probably just playing the Toa just because he had the energy to burn anyways. And he does get the leader Awakening.
An interesting decision by Bryan, because there was a world. Oh no, there wasn't. Never mind. I was saying that I was gonna say that he could have warped the Omega, but I believe Omega had barriers. So
yeah, and so he went down to 2. Sorry, he has 2 energy, but he awakened. And did he use either of the leader abilities?
he chose not to, because remember it does have a cost of sending a card from your hand.
Ah, that's true.
So
Okay.
he decided that every card in his hand was important enough that wasn't worth.
Yep, and the Shenron does have barrier. I don't recall if that matters for the leader, but it's also an 8-drop, so those are a little bit easier or harder to interact with as well.
So Bryan posturing on 2 energy, that comes off as he's saying, I think this is going to be a big turn for you. Let's see you overcommit again and watch what happens if you do.
For sure. And but since Shenron, the longer you get played, the more advantage you get. And there is the Toa. That's not.
No, that is Supreme Kai of time counterplay.
It's not Toa. It's the time. It's not. Oh shoot,
So that stopped the leader attack.
Yes, it sure
and then
did.
it sent the 8-drop to the warp for the duration of the turn.
Yes, exactly.
Stopping 2 attacks with 1 energy. We call that value.
For sure.
Vicente.
And that is a unique card that he'd put back. So if Troy tried to play another one, does the one that come back just go to drop area because of that? I know that's a fringe judge ruling, and we're on this side of the table. So, but that's definitely something we'd have to consider.
Yeah.
Both can't exist at the same time. I do know that. So I don't know which one, if the new one or the old one goes away, but
I do know that there is a ruling that if there is a unique battle card on the field that has its skills negated, and a second card with unique, the same card tries to hit board, you actually do bypass unique, because apparently unique only looks at the first battle card.
Interesting.
And that was surprising to me.
Yeah.
I would even go as far as saying that it's not a intuitive ruling.
No, I agree.
But that would probably give some insight. But I'm sure our amazing judge team, the table judges that we have, will give the correct ruling to that if and when it comes to it.
Correct. I agree.
We see another Rage, anticipating Electromancer. We will see what comes from that.
A lot of thinking.
That leg shake by Bryan,
Yeah, exactly.
that tells you that he's thinking through every possible outcome, every lack of outcome.
For sure. So playing another Nova Shenron, which once again can play a card from drop and put more cards in there. And just honestly being able to burst things is huge. And getting another Naturon Shenron is huge as well. Because, even though Bryan keeps sending cards to the warp, being able to... You need cards into your drop area if you're playing Shenron.
So we know by the way that he postured that Naturon that he's not trying to win the game this turn.
No.
You may see a little bit of pressure here.
But I think it's to the blocker. Now, once again, since Bryan is playing a Mechie leader, I don't think that he needs to really get down to 4 life for anything specifically, but there are some plays. And so he gets to restand the Naturon with the leader effect too, which is...
Some great defense.
Yeah, great defense. And originally kind of why, since Shenron is more of a defensive leader originally, but restanding things is always... It's like a card draw sometimes, because it gets another 5k combo if you use the right card. Oh, and he do get the Omega Shenron back too? Or is it this turn to the end of the next turn?
I believe he should be, but we will see what happens.
There we go. They can't hear us, but I did a psychic link. We got that.
I love it.
Sending good thoughts over there.
Nothing but vibes over in Pasadena. So we see that single swing. We know that he's holding off on his triple draw. That's not this turn. Troy does have some options. Power of the Super Saiyan, could be in the discussion. Vegeta's Final Flash. I may see a copy of that. The third card looks a little bit like a Final Flash.
Yeah, I think there's a Final Flash in Troy's hand. Yeah.
All the sparkle in these hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody playing close to max rarity.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you not? This is the time to shine. Letting it go.
Ooh. And we're going to see Natron. Troy's. Brian's like, give me that.
Yeah. And
Get
how
over
long does he get to keep the card for? Until
Indefinitely, with its skills negated for, I think, in perpetuity.
Okay, cool. Because like having that Shenron on your side is super good because it stops your opponent from doing stuff as well. Like it's a really good mid-range card for being aggressive with double strike or defensive with making your opponent rest cards.
Indubitably.
All right, and playing the 2-drop Mechie, so he gets to take a life to drop area, and I believe play 2 Shroom and a Salsa, I believe. Or I guess just 2 cards that have the Dark Demon Realm race that aren't named Mechie.
Yeah, Toa's going to be able to generate a card, and then I anticipate that Grey Eevee being able to do some damage as well.
Because the Toa, you just swing it, you get a draw card and plus 55k?
Yeah, Grey Eevee is when this card attacks, your opponent warps a card to their drop, and if they don't, he's coming in at 30,000.
Okay, dang.
Swole boy, especially if Bryan has an FTC behind there. Grey Eevee's looking like Jiren real quick.
And yeah, Bryan not keeping Troy and us on our toes with these cards, making sure we know they do too. Yeah, there's that Gravy. Once again, as you said, when this card attacks your opponent, you may send 1 battle card from the drop here to the warp. They don't. It's a 30k for the rest of the yeah. You know, and it looks like he takes it. So
Fascinating.
and down to 4. I think it's 4 apiece now.
Correct.
And then there's the Toa swing.
The Toa actually got tapped.
Oh, it got tapped. Sorry. Oh, yes, there it is. Sorry. Yeah.
One of the best defensive cards, replacing itself. Card event at its
and
finest.
there's another great card coming on in.
And we see that hand shrug that Bryan saying to himself. You really got your secret rare at a time like this.
So yeah, that extra 15k in Gravy won't matter if it gets sent to the warp itself. Yeah, some kind of time. I think this is the first time we've seen the secret rare on stream, though.
That we have. One of the most popular choices for today. We've definitely heard some billowings of other secret rares seeing played. Pan Zeno from the recent set saying Showdown.
Yeah, I mean, Kai of Time for 1 for a 40k is great, so Pan's a 0 for 40k.
The math checks out.
Yeah, the math checks out. We did get that math figured out today. But yeah, also just being a board wipe, it's just probably one of the most flexible secret rares we've ever had. And especially its unison removal, which a lot of decks aren't used to.
It's non-existent. It's almost non-existent.
Yeah. So
at least post Zamasu, the
yes,
Eliminator.
Exactly, yeah.
So we have 1 energy up for Bryan. Hopefully that's Darkness Judgment, and then maybe a card like Petrification or another Supreme Kai.
Yeah, 4 energy is a lot of gas for Troy. It does mean that there's no, Cell Xeno coming down, but it is still pretty scary.
Troy, at this point in the game, Bryan has seemed to have started running out of steam in terms of keeping the drop area clean.
Correct.
And Troy's now starting to get some options back.
Yeah, I think that is the last one of those Shenrons, too. And that's the last raid Shenron left in the deck, so...
Luckily, just in time to awaken. We're seeing Troy do everything he can to get as much value as he can.
We do see a bunch of defensive cards in hand, too. We see a Flying Nimbus, we see the Final Flash. We also see a Cooler. It's a lot of tech in hand. Another super combo. He's got 2 in hand, too. Oof. That'd be a really big push.
Rectifying the game state after the ball. Oh, no.
Another double strike crit. Once again, the wrong commentator crew.
And with the additional power.
Yeah. The
10 to 15 to 25 30.
Yes. And so what do you think about not using the Supreme Kai of Time effect? Do you think it's better just to swing first? I think you're safe to do that, or there could be some interaction there?
Definitely depends on the deck, right? There's only a limited number of cards that Black has that negates things.
And he Troy just super comboed into another super combo. He's got 2 more in hand. And that's one of the best things about this Krillin super combo in this list is that you're cycling specifically for Shadow Dragons, which means the rest of your deck is just literally your tech and your super combos. Yeah, so Bryan's definitely comboing the pretty high time on food because he knows it has a potential to get wiped itself.
Yep. And we see that Darkness Judgment setting up for a 20k leader for the duration of the turn.
Probably a solid call on that side too. He still has 4. Yeah, there's that Darkness Judgment. So if your opponent has 3 or more cards in their board, you can activate this battle skill without paying its cost. Your leader card is a Mechikabura, and it's your opponent's turn. Choose one of your cards, gets plus 5k power for the turn. It's not once per turn, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So he could do it again if he had it / needed to. But Troy's going down to 1 card in life. Essentially wanting to end
I think this is the definitive turn. I do declare.
Swing in. No, Bryan does have 4 life, which is a pretty steep cost, but there is a lot of extension.
We see a 30k, we see a 40k on the field.
Thing is, he did use that 1 energy, so
Ooh,
and there
we do see Protector of the People.
Yeah. Oh, but does he cooler it? He sure do.
Oh, sometimes that's how it be.
And he still hasn't awakened, so he can get that extra. Yeah, and he gets 2 draws because his opponent has so much stuff tapped out too. Fortunately, it's more just utility cards, but we do take those. All right. I'm thinking he's probably digging for, if he can find a Bardock to get a big 25k dual attack to help finish this game, I think he's in a really good spot.
Indeed.
That's what he's probably looking for. He's comboing more. Okay. So that is what, approximately 60k or so?
At the minimum.
Yeah. There's 1 super combo and everything else. It's already a 30k boy. I think it's just a single strike though, unless he absorbed something with double strike, which he totally could have with the natural Shenron. Or I think the Hayden Shenron also has double strike. It does. Goes down to 2. All right, so he's got 2 big boys that can swing. Leader are the Kai. He's got the Champa in hand, I believe. He's got the Cooler that can also swing, and he can still awaken. So it looks like he's looking.
Besides, he wants to look at
He has
top
to look
5
top
first.
5 first. Yeah.
Interesting. I think I would have wanted the draw 1 in the hopes of drawing a super combo.
Yeah, but it looks like he's doing it, so you can't just look it up to top 2, I guess.
Yep. Anytime it says up to, you can look at each individual card and then decide if you want to increase that number.
Yeah, because the thing is that he wants to find that overwhelm card, but he doesn't. He can't get it if he finds it goes to bomb deck, right?
Correct, because he can.
Or gets shuffled away.
Yeah. Or he wanted the drop triple strike, assuming he can get to 7 and 7 drop, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and that Shenron can also just play itself for 1 energy, which is a lot of value. And he did get an overwhelm.
So now he has a pretty important decision to make. Does he play the triple striker or does he play the dual attacker?
So he's just coming up to 25k, which his opponent's leader is a 20k right back on another one.
The DJ Khaled of Shadow Dragons.
But I don't think he has a double striker. He doesn't have a Champa. I think he either shuffled it away or didn't have it. And comboing one of the Bardocks away, which more or less, to me, shows that he does have another one in hand. If Bryan lets this go through, he has to stop so many 1 strikes, including that big 40k Kai.
Ooh. Then he decides he needs to endure here. Oh, that Fu Corrosion would have been beautiful on the snapback.
And there's a Koitsukai too. Koitsukai is great in a list like Troy's where just playing so many dudes.
Troy valuing the state, counting 2-7. And we might still have 7 cards or 6 cards in the drop for the Overwhelm too.
It should be, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh yeah, 7. There you go. So it's Overwhelm without having to use an Overwhelm. It is the other Omega Shenron.
The ultimate Shadow Dragon.
Drawing a Nimbus with it, doing a lot of work there. But it is a triple strike. If your leader card is 3 or more, if your leader card is a Shadow Dragon, you have 3 or more energy, and you send 7 mono yellow Shadow Dragon cards from your drop your board. You draw 1, then play this card from your hand. And Bryan lets it through.
So we see a big double strike combo out. Bryan's running math. What's the counter?
And I think he's down to, oh yeah, he's asking if he's got another Bardock in hand. So like, yeah. And I have this to that. So we're going to, I think, the first game 3 of the event for this stream.
I believe you are correct.
Yeah.
Look at that adjustment. Troy played, again, he has that spectrum of aggro to control. He didn't play the most passively the deck is designed to do.
Yeah.
But game 1, he played the most aggressive that the deck could, and that was wrong. I need to stretch the game out a little bit. He did so. He took advantage of the opportunity in front of him, and he earned that game 1 back against the 2019
For sure.
Dragon Ball Super Champion.
And that's why since Shenron can be so good, it can be flexible in what you're doing. Like there's so many options for it. A lot of the cards have like 3 effects, and you can choose which one you need to do. It's really flexible. I'm trying to see cards in hand. Oh man, if you didn't awaken by turn 3, you gotta play one of those Gokus out that make extra cards cost more. That's like destruction for Mech.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be. And if Troy was on the play this game, that might be a viable strategy to consider. I don't think we're going to see that with Bryan on the play here for this game 3.
Yeah.
The first game of the series that we've seen Bryan be able to take the lead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so, yeah, we're going to see if there's a big adjustment for that. They also have 20 minutes left in round, so they do want to speed up a little bit for that that reason as well.
Bryan staying hydrated. Twitch chat, stay hydrated. Get your drinks on. We sure are.
I will. Give me a second.
Getting ready to shuffle up. If I'm Bryan Samuel right now, after losing that game 2, and dare I say that he lost decisively.
I think definitely Troy made the adjustment he needed to do. And Bryan just wasn't able to, even though he was able to last longer, he was never able to turn the tide.
So now the onus is on to Bryan to decide, okay, so he's going to play a little bit longer game. He's going to build a board. How can I utilize my removal? What tools do I have? And then most importantly, asking himself, what cards do I need to keep in the mulligan? Because if he gets too greedy and doesn't put enough cards back, he's going to decrease the chances of him opening with those Dark Dragon Balls that he needs to play the game as he intends.
For sure. And the other big thing about this too is that if you're able to awaken earlier with Mechie, that just means you have more life in the tank, and you have a 15k leader too. So that's kind of like the cost for having these wish leaders. Like, yeah, sometimes you awaken really low, but sometimes you can awaken at like 6 or 7 life, and you're a 15k leader, which is more common now, I'd say, but definitely when wish leaders first came out was unheard of.
The other thing, too, is one of the downsides of this deck going first are some of these cards like Salsa Ritual in hand. They don't get to use the full extent of their abilities until there's until the Mechikabura player has 2 energy.
Yeah, and that's definitely what you draw. We also just see a Finn, which I don't think we've seen previously either.
Correct. From the new set, Fu, Coercion,
Finn.
Coercion Incarnate.
Yeah. So we saw this earlier in the Finn match, but if your leader's card black when this card's played for your hand, your punches one of their cards, battle cards, and the rest gets sent to the warp.
So if Troy is sitting pretty on 3, 4, 5 Shadow Dragons, those Shadow Dragons are staying in active mode where they're difficult to attack, Finn is going to be devastating.
For sure. And since Shenron has a huge effect on the backside, you have to pay 6 yellow energy, but you play a whole bunch of Shadow Dragons, you can swarm the board, and then all of them restand and everything else. It's just a huge tempo swing, so Finn can definitely help mitigate that if Troy tries to just kind of be on the defensive side.
Correct. Dragon Ballin into pass. So Mechikabura on this turn too, being able to resolve these ritual and hand cards, being able to swing with the leader to tutor 2 balls. This swing is really gonna tell us how much tempo Bryan has.
Yeah, and if he is able to awaken this turn, and just how many balls are in life too, because that is already, could spell disaster for him. But looks like he's taking none from there.
One of the benefits of this larger deck size is you're actually decreasing the chances of the Dragon Balls being in life.
For sure.
Very helpful in these aggressive matchups.
Yeah, and when Wish Leaders first came out, there was a hard cap of 50 cards per your list, but now you can do somewhere between 50 and 60. And when all these ball cards are just literally draw one for free, you don't matter if you go up to 60 sometimes, and sometimes lists are too tight at just 50. All right. Oh, he's spreading out the life. Yeah, he's down to 7.
Just spreading out after reviewing the contents of the balls.
For sure. Yeah, so using the effect of the Toa for 1 to play that Shroom from the deck for free.
Correct.
Just a 15k vanilla. Has a 5k. Swing in. So it looks like Bryan decides that he's going first. Let's get a little bit more aggression onto Troy's side. Troy takes it, goes down to 6.
We see another Dark Emperor strikes back.
It's the first ball in drop area, I believe.
And then we see replacement probably into Salsa, a new Demon God. So the vanilla is going to come back into hand. Salsa, new Demon God, is going to attack. I believe it's going to warp any cards in their drop, but because there aren't any, he's going to get the opportunity to play another battle card.
Which is that gravy he just put there himself. Oh, it looks like he might try to pop it. Which is better than just defending, because you do lose the resource.
Indeed. We see some more Dark Dragon Ball draws and a card removed, and Troy's going to try really hard to get that drop clear so Gravy can stay large.
Yeah, and so now he has the decision. Do you want to get rid of that Shenron in drop area, or make this big 30k Gravy that is going to be a little bit tricky to get rid of otherwise? And now that Bryan's able to set up and be, going first, you can really see the more aggressive side of this list too.
Yeah, eventually he gets so many threats on board. You can try to hit my little leader, but if you're gonna do that, I got 30Ks waiting on the crackback.
Yeah, for 2 energy, he was able to play a 15k, bring it back to hand, play a 20k that played a 30k. Like, it's a lot of value and like a lot of pressure without having to give up a lot of hand size.
Yeah. On the flip side now, the vulnerability is that Bryan is tapped out. He does not have any energy in active mode.
And once again, since he is a Wish leader, if Troy is able to be really aggressive, he can just be a 10k leader for the rest of the turn. So he has to wait until his own turn. Or if he somehow gets rid of all the balls and puts them in the drop area, and go from there.
Ooh. All these adjustments, it's so fascinating. And when you're playing in the North America finals, you're seeing adjustments almost on a turn-to-turn basis, most certainly in a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, because Troy's probably not seen these cards be aggressive. Like, he's obviously got, the big swing on game 1, but yeah, this is definitely a different game now. Taking the credit of Petrification.
Ooh. A card that Bryan may have benefited from later in the game. I know he plays 1 copy in his side deck, so he might be missing that a little bit.
But especially this turn, it being in hand or in drop doesn't make a difference when you're tapped out. Yeah.
Allies hitting the board. Allies absorbed hitting the board. I like the sounds of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure Troy does too.
He loves when that card hits the board.
Naturon followed behind it for that surprise attack.
Yeah, and especially if you do play like a Nova Shenron again, you can specifically swing combo with it, and then with the Nova Shenron play it for free.
We see the warp, where we're introducing blocker and barrier to that allies absorb.
So just a casual 30k blocker barrier, no
Yeah.
big deal.
And he may just get untapped at the end of the turn too.
Yeah,
So,
whatever.
yeah.
It's fine. It's just like the ocean, just like, what is my purpose? You give him make a Shenron blocker barrier.
Yeah.
No.
It's a great it's a great strategy though, because
Yeah.
it circumvents Bryan's tactic of trying to keep Troy's drop alleviated at all times.
Yeah, I don't think Bryan has a lot of ways to get rid of the barrier. Like barrier is does stop him from a lot of things. So swinging in, and also you get the pop from
Pop.
ocean,
Oh yeah, 2 or less.
because why not else?
It does everything
Yep.
and every other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, blocker barrier. When this card attacks, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, switch to rest mode. If the card is switched to rest mode, has any cost of 2 or less, it is KO'd. And then the active ban.
Interesting, he could have chose the gravy. I'm sure the toe was correct because it generates more advantage over the course of the game.
Yeah.
Plus its combo power, but
Yeah, because you can keep for 1 doing his active ban.
so we see the leader search.
Yeah.
He's probably going to try to put a card in the drop in the hopes that it's a great revive for Nova.
But we do see the secret rare is in deck, but is not in hand, or maybe not top deck.
Right where Bryan wants it.
So he's down to 3, so you can't awaken. So Troy's looking like he's, doing more of what he did last game, or first game, where he's being aggressive.
We see that Natron getting comboed. I'm anticipating that to be the
Revive.
Nova revive, correct.
Takes the 1,
Yeah.
going down to 4 or 5.
Yeah, looks like we're at 4, and it makes sense. This is probably the last turn of the game that Troy can easily push damage through due to that leader being 10k, at least until Troy says pass.
All right. Brian's just reading the card, making sure it's not the card that it's not having to get burst from it. You can just always play it.
Bryan saying we're trying to find a way to get the Natron out of there and faster. And Troy wondering if that is the correct route, or if he wants to get something like a double striker in the form of that haze.
And reading the big bad boy too, saying I believe you have to have 3 or more energy, so it's not coming down necessarily this turn, but next turn it's a big scary target. So he is going to use the Black Mayhem Mayhaw, so he is down to 4.
So he's going to take a life in the process of this. Wow.
Yeah. It gets
What an
sent to-
interruption.
Does it get sent to warp, or does it stay in drop?
It would get sent to the warp.
Let's see. If your lead card is black and your life is at 4 or less, if your battle card has an energy cost of 3 or less, it's sent to R's warp instead of being played.
Interestingly enough, I think Troy actually had a window where Bryan has to blind react with Super Kamehameha,
Correct.
right? And
Yeah.
so Troy could have actually outplayed this, but if there were any other viable targets that were more than 3 costs.
So that's definitely why I think Bryan did that search to see if it was there.
Interesting. The counter winners are one of the most complex parts of the Dragon Ball Super card game, but if you can master it, you can master this event.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure we'll be back to gameplay in just a moment there.
There we go. All right. Let's do a self posture check.
Indeed.
Swing with the leader.
He has to get those balls.
He needs them. Are they in life? Or is he just making sure he knows it's in there?
He knows what his options are. Last 2 copies of Dark Knight. If I'm Bryan, I'm probably trying to draw into my answers right now, so I'm sure he's not going to discard one for the other unless he absolutely needs to.
Yeah, and so I think Troy does have the Nimbus in hand, which can be pretty scary and can end the turn, especially since I don't think Bryan's playing any unisons. Also, the fact that his leader is tapped out now, you can't give it triple attack. Swing with Ravian.
Is Shore gonna allow that gravy to get up to 30k?
So
Oh no, we see Frieza's army's reinforcements. That
so-
Frieza army token, that is ironically not a Frieza army.
Mhm. All right, for a second I thought that was Major Glare. It's just a white card.
Yeah. The token.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably the next set of really good staples for every color.
Yeah, introducing the battle evolution.
Correct. Now, it took me way too long to find out that some of them are 10Ks and some of them are 5Ks with 5K combo power.
Right, and it's an interesting balancing
Mhm,
act.
mhm.
Black, however, does not have that option.
No.
So we won't see the black equivalent of anything like that coming from Mechikabura.
So I'm looking back at Troy's hand, and I'm not seeing that in this.
Perhaps he doesn't think he needs it, or perhaps he's trying to bait Bryan into really extending on defense.
We do see the final flash though, which means he can remove a game-ending double strike by comboing with it.
How threatening.
All right, swinging in with the shroom now. That Sin Shenron does have blocker, and there's another blocker with the token as well. Bryan also has not awakened either.
Yeah, very unfortunate he didn't have the opportunity to utilize the triple attack from that awakened Mechikabura leader. Salaman Buddha, Mechikabura, bibbidi babbidi boo.
Right.
So we see that drop area cleaning out a little bit more as we resolve more Dark Emperor Strikes Back.
Yep. And then it gets the awakened.
Removes one more of his choice.
Yeah.
Trying real hard to keep that Natron in that drop, but he's running out of alternatives.
So I think it should already be in the warp though with the Super Kamehameha.
I believe it was the second copy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's the second copy, yeah.
So we're going to see Nova get taken. That will ensure that no matter what the drop area looks like, Natron probably isn't hitting the board next turn.
And I think he's either the skills aren't good, but is he gonna burst too?
Yeah.
Get the one teched in Natron.
Something that's really interesting about this interaction is, I believe, if it was a 2-drop, if you sold a 2-drop, it's now a skillless card, and if it happened to be black, he could have used it for his Salsa and Shroom cards, which that's a really, really quirky interaction.
Yeah, for sure. Coming up.
3-cost Haze, yellow Haze.
All right, so passing with 3 open.
Ooh.
Now Troy does have options in hand. He does have a cooler in hand too. But if you use cooler, you're out of energy, right?
Yeah. So that barrier currently off of Omega. We'll see if Bryan can find a way to keep Omega offline.
I think that's going to be a really tough call. I don't even think he has enough Shadow Dragons to play the big promo.
Oh, I think he has 1 or 2. Yeah. I think he has a Haze 3 and a Natron 4.
He's playing it for 1, so Cooler is offline now. Using the effect. Look at top. Oh, there goes the secret.
Oh. After Troy having a game 2, Bryan's like, divine intervention.
So there's the Haze. Now, I forgot what the smaller one does. The non-Omega one.
I believe it's just double strike.
It might just be a 15k crit. It's right there.
Yep, you're right. Just crit, and he gets the opportunity of retrieving a card from his drop.
Yeah. There's not a lot of targets in there either.
No. Again, Bryan showing off the anti-meta characteristics of his leader card. It's clearly impacting the direction this game's going.
For sure.
What a close game, neck and neck. Tensions are mounting in this heated battle.
And Bryan's got a heck of a hand he's feeding him. Troy does have a lot of gas,
But he does have a 30k basic that nobody. Ooh.
Oh.
Oh, and now it's Bryan's turn for Supreme Kaya time. Is that going to unravel Troy's game plan?
Yeah.
Let's find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, so now he can't attack with this leader card, or I guess any unisons, though I don't think Troy's playing any. But that does stop one attack, and can be a big board clear. So it looks like he's doing the EX evolve there.
Which gives a switch to active mode and the opportunity to do a double strike.
Mm-hmm. And so this is doing the other Kai of Time. Now, does that one have blocker? No, it doesn't, right? Okay. That'd be too good.
Yeah. Bryan realizing last time the reason he lost the game was fighting against Fate, SS4 Bardock. So Bryan knows as long as he's staying at the 3 life, the chances of him surviving Troy's onslaught increases significantly. Oh, there's that SS4 as we speak.
Yeah, and so we know that, he has the Omega in hand, but that can't get played because he doesn't have enough cards in there. He has the Bardock, but that does 2 damage, and he needs to do 3. The leader can't swing anymore. I think Bryan's in a really good spot.
But Troy does have some defensive options in Vegeta's Final Flash.
And what's the card next to the SS4?
Looks like it was that an SCR. He does play 1 copy of Zamasu Sacred Disbelief. There's a possibility.
Oh, the super combo that rests.
The blue yellow.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's my hunch. I'm almost positive.
Oh,
now.
yeah, I think you're right.
So Bryan has Troy has 2 very strong defensive options. Bryan has to correctly predict what they are and find the best line to play around them. And if he can, he may be able to pull out this game 3.
For sure. Though Troy does not have a Flying Nimbus in hand, and that is desperately needed.
We do still have at least 1 leader swing, and everybody, as you know.
Kai of Time.
Oh, correct. Troy evaluates his hand. Does he have any opportunities left? At the very least, he is going to be able to switch both of his battle cards to active mode.
All right, but he's going for the play, warping his entire drop area, meaning that he can't use that Omega Shenron anymore. He can do 2 swings, and I think the idea is that, oh, no, never mind, he's going into...
Yeah, he thinks he's on the back foot here. He needs to get rid of these battle cards, or he's not going to be able to ensure... The scary part is as he starts running out of battle cards, this gravy has the opportunity to continue to be 30k.
Oh, yeah, if he could have popped his own dude, he would have been able to get 1 more of those Shadow Dragons to his drop area. So he does have 1 in there now. Yeah, I think Bryan...
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure where the time is, because we are a little bit different than the rest of the venue, but... Bryan is more life, he is on the play, and Troy doesn't have a lot of defensive options available to him, unfortunately. He does have the potential for it.
Yeah.
Bryan needs to play around it.
But if Troy can get the most value out of these cards...
Man, I'm surprised he didn't do the triple. Yeah. Oh, there he is.
So we see it right now.
Yeah. And that's such a good thing to get around Flying Nimbus too. Nimbus means you can't swing with battle cards 1 more. But if your leader has triple attack, you're doing good things.
And if I'm Bryan, without seeing any copies of the card yet, if I can anticipate if Troy has a Zamasu, I want to swing with those leader attacks first.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if he has Flying Nimbus, this is an incredibly risky play.
For sure. He's swinging again, comboing off. Yeah, because that Shenron also has no skills because it was removed the way it was. Swing a 3rd time, going up to 25k.
Trying to get down to 1. Trying to see if they can find a way to get that. Okay, that makes sense.
The big girl.
And Bryan saying to himself, yes, I made the right call. I guessed the correct defensive option. If I'm Bryan, I am filling myself now. I think I counted 8 in Bryan's hand.
Yeah, he's got a thick hand.
But Final Flash is no less than 3 cards in and of itself. So the few, but the mighty.
And does the Hate Shenron need to be comboed from hand, or can it be comboed from board with the discard to pop something?
That's a fantastic situational question that I have never seen.
All right, he takes the 1 though, gets another 8-drop.
Oh.
Playing, the Mechie. Oh, and not afraid to take the life now that with the time rulings, he still has more.
Generating 2 more attacks.
Yeah. This is definitely where that Flying Nimbus would have taken a lot.
Yeah. Toa has the opportunity of generating a card. Shroom can give additional attacks. We see that Vanilla Shroom is going to become a Salsa.
Yeah.
Bryan's playing fast now.
Yeah, well, the pressure's on. You know the time's coming up, and you want to just end it.
Yep. We see that Vanilla
You want to take that 10-minute break between rounds, too, because this has been a long one.
Indeed.
So 25K. Oh.
Yep.
All right,
Oh.
combo's out.
We see a combo out. One
with
card in
Toa.
hand.
20K. All right, he needs another 15K swing. We can just play a vanilla right now and end it.
Oh,
Oh, but there's
we see it. And Bryan Samuel, 2019 DBS champion, pulls it out to win round 3. What a dynamic game.
for sure. I think it could have gone either way. This is super close to get to game 3. And I think, yeah, both Troy and Bryan had some good plays.
Wow.
And a really, really good match.